welcome back to another episode of The Unstable Brew, where we discuss all things not quite normal in the world, our lives, and maybe even beyond. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Charity.
Let's get brewing. It's not fun.
What?
I said, isn't that fun?
I thought you said this isn't fun.
No, it's not. No. I quit. I'm done. I'm walking out of here. This is bull crap.
Well, it's been a fun 6 weeks back, but we're done. 6, 7? How long have we been back?
When did we start re-recording?
It was episode 23.
Was it July?
Yeah.
I think we started pre-recording in July. We are now...
the end of August. Oh my gosh.
Towards the end of August.
It's been a few weeks.
Entering
a wild ride.
Entering into September.
Yeah.
I'm so scared for September.
Okay, yes. I was going to say, we brought this up last time, and I recognize we never actually told our listeners, hey, by the way, Taylor's in the process of buying a house.
I know. It went from... This is going to be a very quick roller coaster for our listeners because obviously we're pre-recording this.
Yes.
Because we're trying to keep ahead of the game here. And I think before one of our recordings, I was like, yeah, we're like starting the house buying process. We've looked at a few places. They weren't that great. All of the blah, 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 blah. To, as of this recording... we have now initiated a contract on a house, and we have made payments of the earnest money, and we had an inspection done today. Needless to say, if everything works out, we should be closing on this by the 27th of September, and I am fucking terrified.
I'm so excited, though.
My anxiety is through the roof. I cannot tell you, first off, I am incredibly appreciative and thankful that I have you and Daniel, who's already done this twice.
Yeah.
Because I, immediately as something is happening, Charity has been a part of this every step of the way, folks. Every step of the way.
I'm ride or die. We're gonna get through this.
Asking questions, something happens, as soon as I get a text and telling them this stuff, and I'm bare bones, here's everything that's happening, and getting advice and stuff like that. So you guys have been here for every step of the way, and I appreciate that because that has kind of helped alleviate my anxiety just a little bit, but I still have the what if in the back of my brain, and I probably won't fully accept
until the key in hand.
Until the key is in hand. I squealed last night because I pulled up the address on Zillow and it said under contract. And it was just kind of oh my God, that's because of us.
Real.
That's us. Real. So I'm freaking out a little bit.
I'm so excited for you. I mean, it is a nerve-wracking experience. You're doing lots of contract work, lots and lots of big financial questions that you've never had to even consider before. It's going to be nerve-wracking.
So, this entire time, our realtor, our lender, and even the title woman that I met today that I will probably never see face to face ever again, except for this one time. Every single time, numbers or money has been involved, I'm what do you recommend? Should we do this or should we not? Yeah. Because I'm over here going you're the professionals here. And I'm trusting that you have our best interest throughout all of this. So far, it's come off of that. Let me tell you, if you actually go through the house buying process and you find good people,
it can be a wonderful experience or it can be a terrible experience. Definitely look up reviews.
Matt and I have had a hands down wonderful experience with our realtor and with our lender.
Yeah.
As soon as the contract was initiated, I ended up getting a text from our lender pretty much going, congratulations, I just heard, got your contract. I'll give you a call later. And she called later and told us next steps and stuff like that. And I'm just kind of This is real. This is real. This is real. This is real. But then I have like you and Daniel going, you're already pre-qualified. So because you're already pre-qualified, you really should be fine. And the way that our blender has been talking, she doesn't feel like there's any kind of red flags or concern.
Yeah. So honestly, any speed bumps that you would have hit should have happened during the pre-qualification period.
Okay.
And then you also have the inspection, which could bring up some issues. But this house has already just recently been inspected. Recently been appraised.
Yeah, recently inspected, recently appraised. We just got it re-inspected because we couldn't get a copy of the previous report. Exactly. So we had to get our own.
So you already know that it will likely pass because it passed the last one. Therefore, you should not have any more speed bumps. And I'm praying that over you.
Thank you.
I am consistently checking in with you. The main thing is you just breathe.
And we're doing all of this as we're literally about to leave because we're recording this on a Thursday. And we are leaving at like between midnight and 1 o'clock Monday to go to Gatlinburg. So we're going to be on vacation next week as all of this is happening.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, we did not plan this out well.
I have to say, well, you just started this process 2 weeks ago. All of this has happened in 2 weeks. And that's the thing about home buying. It goes really fast. And it shouldn't. It feels like it shouldn't because it's a lot. But it can happen very fast.
Honestly, Matt and I entered into this fully expecting that it would take us probably closer to like the new year before we found the house that we wanted.
Nah, fam.
This was the 4th house that we looked at. Now, we did try to look at 2 others, but one of them actually went under contract like that night that we said we were interested. And then the other place, for some reason, our realtor was denied a tour and she couldn't figure out why. And I was like, whatever. So we actually only looked at 4 houses, and this was the 4th house we looked at. And here's the thing. You're the one who sent it to me.
Yeah.
I initially didn't consider it.
I figured that was the case.
And then something, I think just something told me I should look at it. So then I looked at it, and I went, you know what? Let's go ahead and set up a tour. And like, as soon as we just saw it in person, honestly, I'm going to say something. As we were driving to the tour the first time, I had a mental image of little feet running up the stairs. So I don't know if that was just me like manifesting something, but like that just kind of popped into my head as we were going there. And then we looked at the place and like, I kid you not,
it just felt like it was yours.
Matt and I just fell in love with the place. We toured it the next day again, this time with his mom, and we looked at everything and we're like, everything that we would want to do to it is cosmetic.
Yeah.
That's it.
And you can make those changes over time.
Yep.
I mean, that's what Daniel and I have done.
Yeah.
We've been here for 2.5 years, and over time, we've slowly painted rooms. We've slowly changed up the light fixtures. It's just, as you get an influx of cash, fix one project. That's all you got to do.
We're super excited for some of the projects. One of the projects that we are thinking about doing, and it's going to be like, I told Matt, I was like, first off, our home will have color.
Yes.
It will have color. I'm fine with the color of the walls as of right now. It's doable. It's a turnkey home. We literally can just move our stuff in and just kind of unpack and then plan from there. So we're happy with that. But there will be color. Here's an idea, and then we'll kind of go into like your next thing. I'm so sorry for taking over.
No, you're good. You're good. This is a huge thing, and we need to spend time on it because it's fun.
I'm excited but terrified. But whenever you open the front door, you immediately see the stairs that goes up, like the stairwell, and then you see the fireplace. So like that's the first thing you see when you open the door.
Yeah.
And the stairs have carpet on them. Matt and I have talked. Also, the other thing.
Rip it off.
Absolutely. So we are going to eventually we plan on ripping out that carpet. We want to have like a more natural like wood exposed. It'd probably be more of like a dark wood. But in this staircase, like once we get the keys, we are absolutely bringing y'all over there.
Yay!
There is this light in the staircase hallway that's very vintage that Matt and I weirdly like.
Hey, there you go.
So we want to keep it. And we want to theme the staircase to kind of work with this.
Oh, I like that.
So the idea is to rip up the carpet, kind of expose or kind of have like more of a natural dark wood finish. Mm-hmm. And then we want to have a carpet runner. But the carpet runner isn't going to be a solid color carpet runner. We want it to be a very loud carpet runner. It. We don't know what, but Matt and I both were like, I'm sorry, like we really like that lamp for some reason. I was like, we have to do something to kind of bring that up. We want to get rid of the carpet, and Matt's like, why don't we just have like a loud like
that's so
runner?
Fun.
And I was like, you're right. And then we can kind of paint the walls. Like we could either do like a half paint, or like paint the walls like the down part one color, and then we could either do some kind of like wallpaper or a different color up top. I was like, we could do whatever we want with this.
That is so like much fun.
That's already an idea
of a new house. Is all the possibilities with remodeling and renovating and all the ideas that you can do.
There is already like a very long laundry list of projects that we want to do to this house. Document. And we're so excited for this.
I'm so excited for y'all. It's such a fun part of life. Yay.
I'm so excited. Okay. So I know that this weekend you have some fun plans because I'm gonna be packing and getting ready for a vacation. What have you been up to for like the past week?
That's a loaded question.
How?
Because the answer is supposed to be preparing for this garage sale I'm having this weekend.
Uh-huh.
The answer actually is I started prepping for this garage sale this weekend. Then that turned into, well, I can sell this furniture, but now I need to replace it with some new furniture. And then I found this really nice, fireplace for my office.
Uh-huh.
But the fireplace doesn't match any of my office furniture. So obviously that means I need to replace all of my office furniture, which is fine because I have a garage sale this weekend. So I can sell my office furniture and get new. See, this is why I needed therapy today because it's a whole thing.
Did you tell your therapist about all of this?
Yes.
What did she say?
She said I have a very patient husband.
She's not wrong.
She goes, if I had to do half of the stuff that you're telling me that you've done, like I told her about that time that I was feeling extra stressed out. And what I do when I'm feeling extra stressed out or I feel like I'm losing control is I find a project to take control of, which is why I started doing this garage sale in the first place. And I was like, yeah, there was that one time that I renovated the office and I took down shelves and cabinets that were drilled into the wall. And then my husband just helped me once they were, undrilled because he knows when I have something in my head to just like clear out because I'm going to do what I'm going to do no matter what. And she goes, how does your husband feel about this? I'm like, I think he's just sort of accepted it. She goes, my husband would have a heart attack. He would just sit in the other room thinking my whole house is going to fall down around me. I was like, yeah, he does that too. And she goes, okay then.
Oh, it's going to be fun with us owning a house and wanting to renovate stuff because there's going to probably be certain power tools that I'm going to be grounded from touching.
Have you seen the TikTok of how to call your man? And it's like just grab the nearest tool and the electric tools and start drilling the air or something, and the men will come running like, what are you doing?
I feel like for us it'd probably be furniture moving.
It's always furniture moving.
Just hearing the scrape of just
it's like, oh my gosh, what is she doing now? Just let it be. But
or whenever you hear from the other room, ouch.
Yep.
It's like, what What are you doing?
Don't ask questions.
Don't ask questions.
Yeah, so that being said, this garage sale is going to have lots of furniture in it. But I have actually already sold quite a few things. I've already sold the entertainment center that was in here. I'm in the process of selling both of those bookshelves, the little cabinet things.
Nice.
And Marissa's taking my desk. So all is well.
Okay.
Yeah. So see, it works out, but it's kind of chaotic. And that is what I'm doing this weekend, is just praying. It's horrible because I've been wanting it to rain. And it's finally going to rain. You know when it's going to rain? This freaking weekend that I have scheduled for a garage sale that I've been needing to do for 2 years.
It's probably going to rain in Gatlinburg.
But at least in Gatlinburg, like, it'll be a pretty rain, you know? When you're there, you just get some umbrellas and you'll be fine. Like, rain in the forest is beautiful. But I'm supposed to be selling furniture and clothes, and I can't do that if it's wet, Taylor. So I need at least one good day of sunshine so I can sell this crap, because I have so much crap.
You do have a lot of crap. So also, can I burst your mom bubble?
Oh dear.
What grade does Alex start?
Yeah, that's another thing, is in all of this, my son is officially starting pre-K next week.
Oh, but my goodness.
I have a story, and it's a brief story, but it is my son to a T. We're in the meeting with the pre-K teacher. It's a little meet and greet. And Alex comes in from his classroom, and he's like, hi. And we're like, hi. And he's like, what are we doing? Because he was just escorted into this room with his parents. And we're like, we're meeting your new pre-K teacher, which, by the way, she goes by Momo, which is just adorable. But he's like, okay. So we're sitting there and we're talking about, you know, what we're going to be doing this year. And she's like, one of the kids' absolute favorite things are their journals, and it's really cute because throughout the year you can see them gradually learn how to write the alphabet and write their names, and by the end some of them can even write a full word. And I'm like, yeah, Alex does that for fun. He already does that. She goes, really? I'm like, yeah, like, and I was very polite about it. I was like, yeah. So he'll probably really like this exercise, actually, because it's his favorite thing to do, is he'll just sit there and he'll write his name.
He will.
He'll practice words. Like he'll
and
write
shapes.
The word no. He'll write the word stop. He writes the word cat and dog. Like, he's really good with writing. He loves it. And shapes, yes.
He plays bingo.
He played bingo with us. The kid's smart. But then she goes, oh, wow, that's great. She goes, so what's some of his favorite things? And Daniel and I thought for a second, and we both went, math. And she looked at us, and we're like, yeah, he's really into number blocks and alpha blocks, which just teaches him letters and numbers.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, then Alex leans over and starts spouting off a whole bunch of random numbers. He goes, what's 14 plus 100 plus 25 plus 36 plus 1,000? And we're just looking at him. And he goes, what does that equal? And we're like, we don't have a calculator, bud. And he sits back and kind of looks disappointed. He's like, okay. And then he thinks, and then he goes, 5 times 11 equals 55.
No way.
He did. And the teacher just sat back. She goes, did he just say times? I kid you not. Her exact quote was, did he just say times? We're like, yeah, he does that. He really loves the multiplication table. All the times tables. He really loves those. And she goes, you're going to be a lot of fun this year, aren't you? And he just smiled at her. And in that moment, I thought to myself, he's very smart. We might need to get him assessed for autism.
No, we're like, he's really smart. We should probably get you tested.
Yeah, I was like, I've never been more proud, yet, like, also, not concerned. Like, I'm not concerned by the behavior, but, like, we should probably get that tested.
I feel like you're probably reaching that point because of the reality of the fact is you had a pre-K teacher go, yeah, we do like the whole journals and it's super cute because you can actually see like their progression on like writing and stuff, and you're just over here like,
he's been doing that for a year.
he does that for fun. Like, he can practically read at this point. And this pre-K teacher's going, okay, so there's a lesson plan that may not work out.
The look on her face when he started doing multiplication will live in my brain forever. It was just, what did he just say? It was amazing. My favorite moment as a mother so far.
I mean, this is one of those things where the teacher is going, whatever you're doing,
just keep doing it.
Keep doing, because apparently it's working for this one.
But yeah, so also, if you're a parent out there, Number Blocks and Alpha Blocks is also on a list out there for some of the best shows that are very educational but low stimulant. So they're very good for kids that have ADHD and have, maybe autism or slightly on the spectrum, because they're not super stimulating and they're very easy to pay attention to for long periods of time while also educating you.
Oh, okay.
So yay. Yeah,
super nice
things.
Well, in today's episode, we've decided to share some crazy connections we have in honor of the Halloween spooky season. Over the time, the two of us have found that we both have made very unique connections with some interesting locations, people, and a few theories. These connections have to do with the places we grew up around and their history, as well as the people we have come to know today.
And what's really interesting is, like, a lot of these we haven't always known. Some of them have been kind of recent discoveries. For example, I had known that there was a quote-unquote curse on my high school growing up since I was in middle school. However, the knowledge that my, near hometown had a serial killer once is definitely new information.
That's kind of fun.
It is fun. It's, terrifying, but at the same time, fairly cool when it's historical information. I don't want that going on now, but it's still fun.
I do remember whenever you learned about this, you, sent a whole bunch of stuff, and we're like, oh, Charity found something to hyper-focus on real quick.
Yeah, I sure did.
And then you were done with it.
I think her name was, it was either, Vivacious Velma or, it was something, it was Velma was her name, but they had some really fanciful name before that rhymed or started with a V.
Oh.
Because she was very beautiful and very charismatic, and they were like, this is how she got away with it.
Ah, got it.
She's
okay.
fun.
I mean, I don't have anything crazy with some of my connections.
I don't know. Some of yours are cool, though.
We'll see. We'll see what the listeners think.
So what is it about me that just attracts the crazier ones, then?
Probably the town that you grew up in for the most part.
Yeah. It is a janked up town.
As I'm about to move there.
Hey, I've been telling you don't move there, so good luck.
Well, you know what? I like the neighborhood that we're moving to.
It is a beautiful neighborhood.
And I will never have to worry about losing power.
That is true. She's on a hospital grid, y'all. It's nice.
It's very nice. What I really want to share with the class is how we both are connected to hometown serial killers. One of those killers is from the area that I grew up in, and the other is where our husbands grew up in, and we're now where we now reside. So you kind of already made a statement to it. So why don't you dive a little bit more into yours?
So like I said, her name was Velma. It was Velma Patterson. And it was from 1936. I actually found out about this. I was in a group called Commerce Leadership Institute, which was basically they take a lot of young entrepreneurs and business people in the town, kind of get together, and they can learn the history of the town. And we learned about her at our local courthouse because her story was one of the first nationally known multiple killer situations.
Was it really?
It was a huge deal. She was national news at the time. Because what happened was both of her daughters died in, it was like early January or late January. They supposedly had influenza and then died very shortly afterwards. But then the nurse came back and was like, she kept saying that she was giving them medication, but every time I went over to their house, there was no medication that I could find. And then the Dallas examiners did autopsies and they found poison in their lungs.
Oh.
That would have led to their deaths. So it was suspected that she murdered both of them. And she was actually put on trial for the death of the 12-year-old, because it was a 12-year-old and an 11-year-old, I think, which is very sad. But for some reason, she never went to trial for the other one.
Interesting.
Or it was dismissed because she was not found guilty. The charges, what was it? They were either dropped, she was acquitted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on what that word means?
I wish I could.
Oh.
I think it basically just means, like, they can't prove her guilty.
It's more of like they suspect her, but they don't really have enough evidence to necessarily like go through with
exactly.
anything.
I think just, the evidence was dropped or something like that.
If there's anyone that I mean, we could always Google it.
We could, but that would take, effort. I don't
want to do it.
It's from nearly 100 years ago. She's gone. It's fine.
The word hasn't changed.
The word has not changed. Anyways, so, but what was interesting was that this woman was also married 3 times in the 1930s. That was not heard of. Vivacious. I think that's what it was. I think it was Vivacious Velma or something like that.
Yeah,
and it's because she was married 3 times. The first one was divorce. The second one died just a few months before the girls were murdered. Also, suspiciously of influenza. But his body was never autopsied. She refused an autopsy on it, so they could never prove if he also was poisoned.
Huh.
Uh-huh. Also, during this time, she was having an affair with a rancher, and she was telling multiple people, I would marry him if it weren't for the children.
Oh.
So the proof was there in how she handled things, in the words that she spoke, in her history, but for some reason, she was never officially found guilty. And charges were dropped on the second daughter. And then once she was acquitted, she skipped town, went to where is it? On the other side of the state.
El Paso?
El Paso. She moved to El Paso. Died in the 90s.
Wow.
Yeah. But she was known as a serial killer because she likely would have killed both of her daughters and her previous ex-husband.
Her second husband. Yeah.
And then I don't remember what happened to that third husband. I think he also died.
Suspiciously?
I believe so. I think it was also he suddenly got sick and died. And I'm like, I'm finding a pattern here of people around you just suddenly getting sick and dying. And yet 2 of them were found to have poison in their system.
Suspicious.
Yeah, it's very sad. But she was actually quoted saying, the jury gave me acquittal, but it didn't give me back what I wanted most. That's my babies. I loved them and lived for them. I wanted to rear them and make something of them. Which I thought was a very interesting way to end that. What do you mean make something of them?
I don't know.
Maybe that's just signs of the time, but yeah. So she expressed her love for the girls, but I don't really see that love anywhere else in this story, so... She did also have a son.
Did she really?
She did have a son, and the son lived, as far as I can tell. Yeah. Crazy story. Anyway, so that's my hometown serial killer story. Yours is a lot more...
Mine's famous.
Yeah, mine, yours is a lot bigger
of a
story.
Mine is one of those things that there's podcasts episodes
I
that
need
talk
to
about
study
this.
more on yours. It's so interesting.
There's a movie that has been based on it. You know, I think what I added the notes in here. Have you ever heard of the movie The Town Who Dreaded Sundown?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun fact, that movie is based off of this serial killer.
Really?
Yes.
I need to look into this story a little bit more. Or I guess you could just tell me.
I mean, I'm going to be real honest. It's going to be real quick. It's called the Texarkana Moonlight Murders. You can very easily Google it and find a crap ton of information on it. I knew it for the longest time as the Phantom Killer. Come to find out, I think from my like very brief, quick little look into it, that name came well after the murders had taken place and had stopped.
Yeah.
And I think it was because like a movie or book or something came out that was kind of based on these stories, and then they kind of like dubbed the killer the Phantom Killer because he was never caught.
Even to this day, they don't know who it was.
There are a multitude of theories of who it was. I did not bother looking up any of those names because, again, Texarkana Moonlight Murders. You can Google it and you can find a lot more information.
When did this happen?
So it actually took place in 1946 during a 10-week period starting from February and it ended in May. 8 people ended up being attacked and 5 out of those 8 were actually killed.
Holy
this
crap.
was and it was he would attack couples. So like these were all couples that he like found that were kind of on like these like lover lane type places, kind of secluded off the beaten path, but in specific different areas in like the Texarkana and surrounding area. And he would just show up and like threaten them, and he killed several of them. I think out of the 8, there's a one couple where like one of them was killed and the other one ended up surviving.
Wow.
But then all of a sudden it like 10 weeks of this, of people being terrified at night, of being alone, even with, and it was couples. So like you couldn't even be with someone else for fear that someone was out there with a freaking gun. And then it stopped.
See, it's wild to me that it just stopped because you don't see an increase in activity like that and then it just ends. So that typically leads up to more of an aggression until they're caught.
So that's where a lot of the theories come in, is that they have several suspects that they theorize could be the potential killer. And they suspect them because of kind of they fit the profile, quote unquote, of who the person would be. And then they kind of all like I think one person like went to jail, someone else moved away. Like they ended up disappearing right around the time that the murder stopped.
I would be intrigued to look into some of these people and figure out where they moved and see what has happened in those areas since then.
No, seriously. After this, you know that there's your next hyperfixation.
Oh, yeah. I'm a hyperfixate on this. It sounds like fun.
It's one of those things of any true, like, honest to goodness true crime fan knows who this is and knows the stories. For a while now, my mom, she told me that when she was younger, there's a park called Spring Lake Park.
Yeah.
In Texarkana, and there's like these 2 like stone towers at one of the entrances. You know what I'm talking about. Because this killer was such a huge deal, even when my mom was growing up and stuff like that, her brothers would tease her and they would threaten her and say, we're going to lock you up in one of those towers because it's haunted by the Phantom's ghost. So she'd be terrified of even going near those things. That's
horrible, and such a thing big brothers would do.
Oh, yeah, it was terrible because my uncles are actually Irish twins.
Oof.
And then my mom ended up being the baby for the longest time. So, like, having Irish twins, big brothers who were already, like, fairly, like, the high school football coach was trying to actively recruit them when they were in
Yeah.
8th grade because they were so big for football.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be terrifying to look up to.
So,
Now, see, real quick, I'm going to rabbit trail. And
Okay.
it'll be brief, I hope. Anyways, have you been paying attention at all to this guy on TikTok talking about how his grandfather was the Zodiac killer?
no, because I haven't really been on TikTok.
Okay. This put me down a rabbit trail of the Zodiac killer. Like, I know who he is, and I know, like, kind of the basis of it. But, like, I actually kind of did some research on it. And this dude has enough evidence to back up his grandfather as the Zodiac killer that he's currently working with the FBI.
That's pretty terrifying. You know, you could just probably. Well, no, I don't think they ever gathered any DNA.
No, I think there was like some DNA, but it was very, very minimal. But his grandfather actually worked with the Valero Police Department, which is where all of these things happen. He worked on some of the cases that some of the Zodiac killer did, as well as he was the first on scene to one of the murders. There's a documentary from 2008 where his grandfather is explaining one of the victims, and the way he starts talking about her clothing and her bra is a little uncomfy.
Unnerving.
Very. And what really gets me is the sketch of the Zodiac killer from the 60s. Side by side with a picture of his grandfather from the 60s is near identical. The age progression photo of what they believe the Zodiac killer would look like as an elderly person is near identical to how his grandfather looks. There are ways that he spelled certain words that matched how the Zodiac killer spelt those same words. Like he had until with 2 letters is also spelled that way on the Zodiac killer's messages. And the very first killing that they believe the Zodiac killer ever did was signed RH. His grandfather's name was Richard. It's like Howard or something like that. But yeah, also RH. So I'm very intrigued to see what comes of this. But this poor man is going through a lot because of it, because half of his family is pissed.
Well, yeah.
That he's bringing this up. And he's like, it's not like he was a good person. He was abusive and a terrible husband. Why not just tell the world, hey, he also murdered people?
Yeah, but that's the whole, like, but they're blood.
Screw blood. He was a serial killer. But yeah, that's my little tangent for the moment. I just think it's fun to kind of keep up with.
You do love the rabbit trail.
I sure do. Anyways, for this next section, I did also want to ask curse or bad luck. So, I'm thinking curse for both. But for Taylor, I want you to kind of explain some of the history of your grandparents' house.
Oh, that place. So let me just first say, this is all just stories that I have been told. I have not bothered to look up any form of the history on this place, on this address, or anything like that. So I don't know how true any of these statements are. Let me first start out that this particular house is freaking massive.
Oh, is it?
Like, I knew it was big, and then specifically for this episode, I like quickly like tried to, because I don't remember the actual address off the top of my head, so I had to get real creative to like find this place. Not really. I just got on Google Maps and I already knew the highway that it was on. I knew how to find my way. Anywho, and so I could find this specific house and get like what its current numbers are. So currently, the house that I grew up in for a few years is currently a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. You want to guess the square footage?
3,000 square feet?
You're fucking spot on.
Am I really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is
Sweet.
a 3,000.
That's a huge house. It's twice my house.
Yeah, it's a 3,000 square foot house. It's massive because it has a long ass hallway. And as you go through this hallway, there are like other doors. There's the master bedroom that is freaking massive, but has like this tiny little like bathroom.
That sounds about right.
That was never updated when my grandparents lived there. Right across the hall from my grandparents' bedroom was actually my grandmother's like study, and it was just this really long ass bedroom area.
Yeah.
I guess they're not calling that a bedroom because it went into this other really small squared hallway that had 2 other bedrooms even further back.
This sounds like a really complicated house.
And so my Uncle David had one of those back bedrooms and I had the other back bedroom. And then next to my grandmother's study was my mom's bedroom, and that was also just as long as the study, to where my mom could have a king size bed up against the wall, have a short little like shelf, and then could have a small like living room set up and still have plenty of room. It was a massive room. Jeez. Then you go down, walk down steps, you have the den, that den living room area. I mean, they had lots of couches, a really nice big ass fireplace, exposed beams.
Oh, I love exposed beams.
They had a pool table, and there was plenty of room for that. Whenever we did Christmas, there was a massive freaking Christmas tree. The kitchen was big. The laundry room was massive. The half bath was right by the garage. It's a huge house. Now imagine that 2 stories.
Oh my gosh.
When it was originally built.
At that point, I mean, you're basically in a mansion.
Pretty much. So when the house supposedly was originally built, the person who built it, I guess, was like one of the railroad tycoons, because it's not too far.
That's why it's so big.
It's not too far from railroad tracks in the area the house is located. I've been told that when it was originally built, it was 2 stories. The person who built it was actually not a very good person for that area.
How so?
Just a very dark person.
Yeah.
That I don't know details. I don't even know who originally built the house. Like I said, these are all stories that I was told. I don't know how much is true because I haven't verified any of it. But I guess when he owned it, the house caught on fire.
And that's how you lost the second story.
When it ended up getting rebuilt, they just kind of nixed the second story. And let me tell you, when I say double story, I was told that the exact same floor plan that it was downstairs was how it was upstairs. So like even the 2 kitchens.
Gracious.
I don't know how true that is.
I mean, either way, 2 stories when it's already 3,000 square feet. It's a huge freaking house.
Yeah. So I mentioned the fire because that's actually important, because since the time that my grandparents owned it, and they owned it off and on several times, so they've actually lived in this house, I want to say 2 or 3 separate times.
Yeah.
I want to say that during the time that they owned it, it caught fire 2 different times with no real explanation as to why it caught fire. Now, there was no, like, the whole house was destroyed. It was usually concentrated in a relatively, like, specific
single
area. So, like, it didn't damage a whole lot. But, yeah, even when my grandparents owned it, it caught on fire, like, 2 or 3 times.
But wasn't it to where, like, every time it caught fire, it was the same room?
No, at least I haven't confirmed any of that. I just know that it caught fire. I don't know where any of the fires started. I just know it had caught fire a few times, and that when they went to investigate the cause, they never could actually find a conclusive cause.
That's weird.
The other thing, now that I'm an adult, I'm pretty sure that house is haunted.
Oh, yeah. The stories you've told me, I'm like, yeah, there was something in that house.
So I feel like the house is probably cursed a little bit, because when I stayed in the back room that I stayed in, I don't know if it was more of like me being a kid and just kind of my age, because I was like 7 or 8, parents going through a divorce, who knows. But I never liked being in my bedroom at night with no lights. That was during the time where I had to have like a nightlight.
Yeah.
And also whenever I would look outside the window, like I knew like my grandpa Dennis was outside working on the yard. Mm-hmm. Okay. I could open my blinds and I could see exactly where he was. But whenever it would start to become dusk, I would get this like gut wrenching, uncomfortable feeling.
Something bad is gonna happen kind of feeling.
Just simply to look outside the window to see my grandpa Dennis is like working and like raking the leaves. Like being anywhere near those windows when it started to get dark, I just had this gut wrenching feeling. And I'm like, okay, that's probably a kid thing.
Yeah.
Until I became an adult and my mom and my grandma Kay were having conversations about weird things that's happened to them in the house. And my mom just goes, yeah, I know that there's like a shadow man on that side of the house that we stayed on. I went, excuse me, what?
I beg your pardon.
I was like, what?
Say again.
And then she proceeded to go, yeah, there's been times where they've gone out back there and they found like cigarette butts by the window. But like,
well, I guess if you're dead, you don't have to worry about your lungs.
But like, no real explanation
But
as to
also
why.
maybe check the woods or something for like a homeless man just
No,
stalking
because
your backyard.
Here's the thing: we lived in a neighborhood,
That's not better.
so like. We like the backyard has like is connected to other neighbors like yards and stuff like that. But I don't like she said that and I was like, what?
That's crazy, man.
And so I was like, so I've kind of gone with maybe I just didn't feel comfortable because there is this like bad energy on that side of the house for some reason. I don't know.
It's possible.
There were times where I would sit in the living room watching TV and the blinds that they had in the den area were like the heavy duty like weighted blinds. Like those don't move without you moving them. Like we were talking about a strong gust of air or you're running your hands through it or you're running past it. It needs air to move. Those things would move all the time.
That's crazy.
Even when the air was not blowing, they would move.
But I mean, all of that plus just the fact that the house burned 3 times. 2 of which at very least, there's no real cause for.
So I've been told.
It just tells me that sounds very curse-esque.
So that's my curse thing. What's your cursed connection?
So I want to start by saying that the first time I heard this, I was in middle school, and I'm like, nah.
This ain't real. This is bull
what do you
crap.
mean curse? There's no such thing as curses. By 11th grade, I was a full-fledged believer, okay? Because the theory is that every 2 years, no matter what, every 2 years, a student will die at my high school. Which, not necessarily something that you want to hear as a 7th grader.
Right.
But it found itself to be true because when I was in 5th grade, there was a group of students who got into a bad car accident. I don't remember if it was 1 or 2, but at least one of the girls died in that car accident. When I was in 7th grade, which was when I heard about the curse, and this was really sad because it was one of the kids in our class. It was either his older brother or it was someone who was basically like an older brother to him and was very close with him. He got into a fight with his girlfriend. His girlfriend broke up with him. So he committed suicide in the band hall before school started.
Oh.
In the band hall closet. It was very, very sad. But yeah, we heard about that at the middle school because they obviously had to lock down the high school. All the kids got sent home. It was one of the kids in our class, like he knew him. So we heard about it. And that's when they started saying, well, it's a curse. And I'm like, okay. But then in 9th grade, it was a girl in art class. She was home alone with one of her friends, and they were out riding 4-wheelers in their back field. And she hit a bump, and the 4-wheeler flipped and landed on top of her.
Oh, no.
They actually said, I think it was her parents who had said that they were kind of glad that she didn't have a helmet on, because if she had, she might have survived, but she would have only been like a vegetable or something like that, and they knew that she was such a free spirit.
She would have hated it.
She would have hated that. So they were kind of glad that it seemed like it was fairly quick when it happened. So that was heartbreaking. But then in 10th grade, we did have another accident but we don't really contribute that one to the curse because she was no longer going to school with us, but she had moved the previous year, was in a car with her family, and she had just learned how to drive. She was driving, got into an accident, and her dad were killed.
Dang.
And I think her brother Or it might have just been the two of them. But that one was sad. But then in 11th grade, because it's 9th grade to 11th grade, there was a girl in the class below us was in a car accident with her boyfriend. And he lived and she did not. And that was a rough funeral. Which, mind you, also realize if you're keeping count, this is 3 funerals, one funeral a year when I'm in high school.
Yeah.
All of whom were either my age or younger than me. That's hard. So when I was a freshman in college, this one was heartbreaking. It was a girl named Alicia, who was actually one of my mom's students. She was a very, very sweet, very, very quiet girl. The last time she was seen was getting off of her school bus. And that's actually, if you look up her case, you'll see the video of her getting off the school bus. That was the last time she was seen. And that school bus dropped her off either right in front of her house or just up the street from her house. She was in her neighborhood. And she never made it inside her home.
No.
Yeah. They searched for her for a few days. And they found her body there's a few counties over in a box on the side of the road. And some absolutely horrific things were carved into her. It was a brutal murder, and it ended up encompassing 3 different counties because she was taken from our county, murdered in another county, dropped off in another county. So I think the Texas Rangers actually came in.
Yeah, they have to be involved when county lines
and
are
it was
crossed.
discovered that it was her uncle who did it.
That's awful.
Yeah. This was a huge case because they found out that the social workers who had been dealing with her for that past year had dropped the ball on a lot of abuse, had dropped the ball on a previous report of sexual abuse that she'd made, and was not paying attention to the fact that she was malnourished and having all these other issues. So I think by the time all was said and done, the uncle was arrested, as well as 2 social workers were arrested.
Dang.
For how they handled the work. And a couple of policemen were actually let go for how they handled the crime scene. I know that the police department itself was investigated by the Texas Rangers for how they handled everything.
Shit.
It was insane. And then 2 years after that, another one of my students. And how do you explain this one?
Your students? I didn't know you were a teacher.
No. Another one of my mom's students. What did I say?
Oh, you said one of your students.
My bad. No, another one of my mom's students. This one's crazy. I want to say he was a senior. He was a senior. And he wakes up one day and suddenly all of his memory's gone over the past 3 years. He thinks he's a freshman.
I remember you telling us about this.
They're like, he didn't hit his head. He has no virus. There's nothing no meningitis. There's nothing that would cause this. He just woke up and 3 years of his life were erased. And my mom said it was the most heartbreaking thing because he thought he was still dating this one girl. He didn't understand why all of his classes were different. In that amount of time, he stopped living with his parents and started living with his grandparents and didn't understand why that dynamic was the way that it was. He was so confused and he couldn't cope. So after a few months of living like that, I don't think they could necessarily prove it, but they're fairly certain it was suicide by 18-wheeler. He hit an 18-wheeler head on.
Dang.
Yeah, that one was hard. And then, so from then on, we also had a kid who was stabbed. A kid who was in her house got hit by a car.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that.
She was in her house taking a nap and got hit by a car.
Yeah, the car, I think it went off the edge or something like that, or didn't stop or whatever, but it plowed straight into her bedroom while she was asleep.
And that was actually the younger sister of a girl who was in my class.
Dang.
So yeah, I mean, at a certain point, it's I understand. Every high school goes through a tragedy. Every class tends to have a loss at some point.
I've gone through a few of those.
But every 2 years,
Yeah, that's
every 2 years. At a certain point, you have to start asking some questions.
Yeah, I would
That's
say so.
crazy. And it's heartbreaking how some of these have happened.
So what I'm hearing is my kid is not going to the Greenville ISD, so they don't participate in the curse.
All I'm saying is whether you want to claim it for the curse or the administration, either way, maybe don't send your kid to that ISD.
I really don't plan on it.
Also, just real quick, Daniel dropped the name of that ISD.
I don't think we said it.
You said it.
Did I?
Yeah.
When?
When you said my kid's not going to that ISD.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Anywho.
I mean, here's the thing, though. There's multiple towns with that name.
That is true. But not in Texas.
See, now you screwed it because you said what state we're in.
Everybody knows what state we're in.
Shut up.
Shut up.
I'm hoping that our listeners are goldfish.
You should be offended.
Bloop, bloop. Short memory. It's fine.
Anywho.
Bloop, bloop.
But yeah, all that to be said, I just feel lucky to be alive at this point. Because...
I mean, that's a dramatic statement, but I can understand why.
It was a very dramatic time.
That's
we were also going through a gang war when I started high school, so that was fun.
Oh, yeah, I forget that
They stomped on one of our vice principals. Broke her femur, broke her collarbone. It was a whole thing. And she was not a small woman. This woman was built. She was 6 foot. She was mean, which, granted, is kind of why she got stomped on, because she was like, I'm big, I can take them. It's a mosh pit full of people, and she got in the middle of it. So, yeah, they stomped her. She survived, though. Came back meaner than ever.
What doesn't kill me makes me meaner.
And that was her. Oh, gosh, she scared me. She scared the teachers. She was a scary woman. Anyways, so moving forward in this, I want to bring up some familial connections.
That aren't really ours.
They're not really ours, but they're in our family, at least our married family. So I thought they were fun to just add in because I know, at least for mine, it's relatively new information that I was like, excuse me?
I think,
and yours is just fun.
I think I actually knew that about your mother-in-law. I think I've known about that for a little bit, and it's just one of those of like, huh.
It's like you forget about it, and then one day you just sit back and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But real quick, I want to hear about yours first, though, just because, like, I'd had the information wrong as to who it was.
Yeah.
And I want to hear a little bit more about it. I'm a historical person. I just think it's fun.
I mean, I'll keep it short and sweet because I also did a little bit of, like, quick research to, like, confirm this. So it's not fully confirmed. Honestly, family, it could have been under different names.
Yeah.
But supposedly some family members of my husband's family on his dad's side ran with Jesse James' gang.
Wow.
That's about all the information I can tell you.
Yeah.
I honestly, that's all I can tell you. Supposedly, his dad kind of looked into it a little bit, and he had mentioned it before, and he had mentioned a couple of other of like their crazy family Southern stories.
Which is just a fun way of putting it.
Yeah, like some way, somehow, supposedly a family member cut off a Union soldier's head and used their skull as a soap dish. Yeah. No, or was it his jaw? It was one of his...
I feel like a jaw wouldn't hold soap very well.
It was something. It was some kind of
That
bone.
just sounds like a movie script. Like something straight out of a Western.
I mean, it was during Civil War. Yeah, there's a whole story to it. But, like, whenever I've heard stories about Matt's family, you definitely go, yeah, your family's definitely from Tennessee and from the hills. Like, they're hill.
That'll
like,
do it.
Yeah. Matt's
I have
family.
some ridiculous family stories, but none quite as dramatic as, yeah, I cut off his head and used it as a soap dish.
There's a whole story behind it. It's a whole story, and I've only been told it once, and it was like so many years ago that I can't fully remember the details.
Yeah, there would have to be a lot of details.
All I can tell you is that Matt's family on his dad's side is heavily from Tennessee and definitely from Hill Country. So
Wow.
yeah, I married a bad boy.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that, but his family's interesting.
And it's so funny because you look at my father-in-law and the way that he dresses and acts. First off,
Not a bad boy. No.
let me inform you, he's been asked to be a guest preacher at yet another church in that area.
Shocker. I mean, good for him. Really good for him. But, I mean, yeah, no. Bad boy is not the image given off by Bill.
Oh, no. I was referring to Matt. No, I was going to just describe Bill as, like, we're talking about, like, his hair. First off, it's been the same haircut since I've known him.
Just say it's always been his haircut.
I've never seen it change once. On top of the fact from what Matt has said, it can even withstand hurricanes. His hair is so perfectly cut and styled the way it is.
It don't move.
That it apparently can withstand hurricane strong winds.
That's phenomenal.
So it's pretty
I love
impressive.
I love it.
All right, now what's your weird family connection that isn't really your connection,
Oh my gosh.
but your mother-in-law's?
So I find out all these crazy facts about my husband's family when I'm only halfway paying attention. So I always have to come back and be like, I'm sorry. I know I did not just hear that correctly. Please repeat. And yeah, so apparently...
Also, before you continue, you absolutely said the name wrong when I looked through this run-through and I had to like Google and make sure that it's spelled correctly.
How did I spell it?
Definitely not how it's spelt in our notes. Carry on.
Well, now you've broken my brain. How did I spell it? Anyways, I mean, you're probably right.
I know I'm right. I'm the one who corrected
I have
it.
zero faith in myself. However, yeah. Anyways, so
At least God has faith in you.
God has faith in me? No, God has faith in himself to take care of me. Because nobody, even God knows, special kitty, pretty kitty. It's okay. Just don't bump into, oh, you bumped into that. Oh, God. Oh, me. Anywho, my mother-in-law, she's a very musical person.
Yep.
She was very heavily active in her church, has always been, but this would have been in like the mid 70s, I guess.
Yeah.
Mid to late 70s, somewhere in there. She was involved in her, I believe it was her church youth band, and they had a new member. Who was not quite as eccentric as he would become, but she likes to say that he was very eccentric and very weird, and that's pretty much all that she'll say on the matter. But she was in a band with David Koresh, which if you don't know who David Koresh is, look up Waco and you'll find out who David Koresh is, because he was the leader of a massive cult in Waco, Texas. Which ended up in a massive shootout, which also led to his death. But I think he killed himself.
So the explosions went off. I actually watched a documentary over that particular incident in Waco, and truth be told, watching it, I'm like, yeah, we fucked up.
Oh yeah.
This
the whole thing was messed up.
We could have avoided this. This could have been handled differently.
Everything was handled very poorly.
The lack of communication, the things that just happened just because someone decided to do something, it's awful. I think out of everyone that was there, because eventually it ended up in the whole place, it turned into, what happened is the U.S. government ended up taking a tank and like completely like running it into one of the side walls. And roughly whenever they decided to do that, that's when the people within the building decided to set off explosives that had been set. So it was pretty much like they got stormed, and instead of them being taken, they decided to
killed everybody.
Pretty much.
Which, mind you, there were children there.
So
it was a horrendous event. Yeah. But yeah, she was in a band with him. Also, yeah, he was very musical himself. You can look up his band and his music, even to this day. Like, you can look up David Koresh's music.
I forgot that he did music.
Yep. I forget what he did in the band. I think he was like a bass player or maybe electric guitarist, but my mother-in-law she played the regular guitar and sang.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
how old was she when...
She would have been like 17.
How old would he have been at that point?
He was still a teenager. This would have been when he got involved with the Baptist church. So he probably would have been around 18 or 19.
So this was well before he kind of created his own form of...
The stories around him say that, he kind of went off the wall around 19 to early 20s. He was always a little bit eccentric, but he started dating a pastor's daughter at 19. I know that, and she was like 16, and he was like, she was meant to be my wife. God sent her to me to be my wife or something like that. And the pastor was like, no, you need to go.
Got it.
And then from there, it just went downhill. But I don't think that was even at my mother-in-law's church. It might have been. I need to ask her that. But it would have been somewhere around there.
So, at one point, your mother-in-law played music with David Koresh.
Yeah. She doesn't like to talk about it. But I think it's cool.
It is kind of cool.
We got some crazy connections, man.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We wanted to deep dive into some of our personal crazy connections because honestly, we couldn't have made this stuff up if we tried. Cults, curses, serial killers. I highly recommend looking into your own background to see if you have any crazy connections of your own. You just might be related to a crazy psychopath known for their cultist beliefs or not, but who knows?
Who knows? And if you have any questions regarding our crazy connections or would like to share a crazy connection of your own, you can email those to us at theinstablebrew@gmail.com. Hello, Smokey. You scared the crap out of me. Anyways, and if you would, we do promise to read any and all emails that come our way and fit any into a future episode. And as well, if you would like to share your story but remain anonymous, just let us know and we will be sure to honor your request.
Additionally, if you would ever like to share with us a story, simply to share it but not have it shared on a future episode, please feel free to do that as well. Simply let us know that the email is for venting purposes only and not to be shared on the show. We will respect your request because boundaries matter. It really does. It's very important.
That's so anticlimactic.
You're welcome.
I prepared my ears and everything. I was shocked. Anyways, if you would like to follow us on social media, we are available on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X under The Unstable Brew. We will often be posting promo videos and extra fun content on these platforms.
And remember, we're available for your listening pleasure or displeasure on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can even watch our episodes on YouTube. What? Please like, share, and download to your heart's content. Also, comment. We forget to add comment.
Yes, please comment. We want to hear from you. Also, real quick, before I end us off, I'm very proud of us. We made it through that entire end section without a single mess up. And that's the first time we've done that in a month without messing up.
And now it's all going to go down the drain. So thanks for that one.
I don't care. I'm proud of us. But you know what? You can stay tuned and join us next week for more Unstable content.
Bye.